Hello there. Just recently I've been making a number of video tastings of the vin-doux-naturel of southern France. So today I'm looking at Muscat de Rivesaltes. This is from Domaine Cazes. It's a 2021 vintage and this is in a half bottle. Now, Domaine Cazes are an estate of 220 hectares of vines. It's a family-owned estate. The current proprietor, Emmanuel, is the great-grandson of Michel Cazes, who established the estate in 1895. By the 50s, the business had grown to around 40 hectares of vines, and in 1955, the family decided to start bottling and marketing wines under their own name. Prior to that, they'd simply been growers. More recently, since Emmanuel joined the company in 1997, they've moved to farming organically and biodynamically, gaining certification for both of those in 2005, with the entire estate certified. Each year, they make somewhere in the region of 15 wines from 12 different varieties in 6 appellations. So they make wine the Côte de Rousillon Village, Fitou, Maury, Muscat de Rivesaltes and Rivesaults. They're making both table wines and fortified dessert wines, and that requires a combination both of modern techniques and ancient traditions. I should just clarify the difference between Rivesaults and Muscat de Rivesaltes. Obviously, Muscat de Rivesaltes is fairly self-explanatory. It's a fortified wine made from Muscat. However, a wine simply labelled as Rivesaults will be a wine made from a combination of Grenache grapes, so Grenache Noir, but also Grenache Blanc, Grenache Gris, so they can sometimes be quite light in colour, and sometimes they're made in an ombre style, so they can be a dark orange. But for the delicate, elegant, sweet wine, you need to make sure the word Muscat is on the label. Now, their approach to biodynamic cultivation follows 4 principles. The first of those is to use biodynamic preparations. They use horn dung, horn silica and composts. Now, horn dung and horn silica are exactly that. They're cow dung or silica that have been put into cow horns and buried for a year, then dug up, added to a large amount of water and sprayed on the vineyards to invigorate the vineyards, and evidently the silica is there to protect against pests and diseases. The second principle is dynamisation, and that is based on the idea that with the large amount of water that you're diluting your preparations with, to invigorate that, you should stir the preparation vigorously until there's a vortex, and then you should reverse the direction of stirring until there's a vortex in the opposite direction, and then use that as a spray. So that's the idea of invigorating the preparation. The third principle is that of working in conjunction with cosmic rhythms, so following a planting calendar that relates various operations to the moon phases, for instance. The fourth principle is that of maintaining living organisms around the vine. The estate's located right in the heart of Rousillon, in the Agly valley. This is at the foot of the Corbières hills, and the estate straddles the villages of Rivesaltes and Salses-le-Château. So to the wine. It's a blend of 70% of Muscat d'Alexandria and 30% of Muscat Blanc Petit Grand, and actually that is what marks out Rivesaltes as being different from other southern French Muscat vin-doux-naturel. Muscat Baume de Venise, for instance, can only be made from Muscat Petit Grand, and it's Muscat Blanc Petit Grand that's generally seen as the better quality Muscat variety. Where Muscat d'Alexandria produces quality wines, it's normally in situations where those grapes are dried. So the use of Muscat d'Alexandria is one of the distinctive points about the production of Muscat de Rivesaltes. The grapes for this are hand-picked. They come from low-yielding old vine vineyards. The vine age is about 30 years, so fully mature vines, and when I'm saying low yields, I'm talking about 20 hectolitres per hectare, so that's pretty low yields. Hand-picked fruit is destemmed, it's crushed, and then it's allowed to settle. As soon as the juice is clear, it ferments. It ferments in tank, and the temperature is regulated to 18 degrees Celsius to stop it becoming too hot and to try and retain the aromatics, to stop them being boiled off during the fermentation. Fermentation is stopped by a process of moutage, where a neutral spirit is added to the fermenting vessel. In this case, it's done to leave the wine with 15% alcohol and 114.5 grams per litre of sugar. Now, Muscat de Rivesaltes ages reductively. It's not exposed to oxygen, so it doesn't age in oak barrels or anything like that. So presumably it stays in tank, but it has to be bottled within 6 months of harvest. And the producer notes that it's then stored in air-conditioned cellars. And I think, again, they're making the distinction that this is a wine that's made to preserve its fruit freshness. Some of the vin-doux-naturel from this part of the world will age with the influence of heat and light, so for instance in glass bonbons in the sun, and that will cause them to maderize and create a very different style. Here they're looking to retain the simple, fresh, pure aromas of the Muscat grapes. So let's see if they've managed it. Looking at the colour, this is a pale to medium yellow. Swirling it, the alcohol and the sweetness are combining. 15% alcohol and 114.5 grams of sugar are combining to produce some quite noticeable tears on the side of the glass there. The wine has some viscosity. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas have a quite simple, fruity, slightly confected note with some, slightly lifted floral hints, but also just a little bit of the spiritiness is detectable. There's a slight sort of almost note of anise or some sort of mineral note at the end there. It's clean and simple, but almost sort of a slightly sickly perfume, a bit like that of lilies or something. So that's for taste. The wine is indeed sweet. There isn't a particularly noticeable acidity, although a little freshness starts to come through later on, so I suspect there is some there. There's quite a rich, sort of quite sugary sweetness at the front of my mouth there. There's a slightly oily texture, but the mid palate shows a rich, ripe fruit, almost with a ripe peach, sort of stone fruit note. I'm thinking of apricots, but I think that's more the sort of the texture when you bite into a juicy apricot. It's not quite got the depth and richness of flavour of that. I often think of Muscat as having quite grapey characteristics. I guess they're there, but actually there's some slightly more high-toned, almost sort of elderflower notes. There's this slightly confected pear drop sort of note, something slightly estery there, possibly produced as a result of a relatively cool fermentation. The alcohol is adding some roundness to the back palate, but doesn't particularly stand out because of the slightly oily texture to the mid palate, which is a mid-weight. The finish is not particularly long. There is a little fresh fruit there, maybe slightly pear drop, maybe slightly lemony. I talked about the spirit being noticeable on the nose. I don't think I see it particularly on the palate. There the spirit seems reasonably integrated, and the alcohol doesn't stand out particularly. Length is reasonable but not exceptional. This is not a wine for aging, I'd certainly say that. I think this is a wine to drink when it's young and appealing. It's got pleasant, straightforward perfume. It's reasonably balanced, there are no obvious faults. Looking at the Wine Searcher aggregated score for this wine, it gets 89 out of 100. I think that's a relatively generous score for this one. Its beauty is its perfume, its simplicity. I could see that would be lovely to drink on a hot summer's day in the south of France, possibly as an aperitif, possibly with simple fruit desserts, where it would provide quite a nice backdrop for something like summer fruits or plum tart or something like that. It's a simple, enjoyable wine, but it doesn't have the complexity or the intensity. It doesn't really reach quite the heights of some of the Muscat Baume de Venise that I've tried recently. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you've enjoyed it, do please press the like button. If you'd like to watch more of our videos, we'd be really pleased if you did. Do please subscribe to the channel. It would be great to have your support, and that way you can set yourself an alert and be notified every time that we publish a new tasting video. If you have any comments you'd like to leave, please pop those in the comments box below. We do really appreciate your feedback on the wines we're looking at, the tastings we're doing, or anything else that's related to that. I will leave a link in the comments box below to the Wine Searcher webpage for this vintage of this wine, so that you can find out where and if it's available near you, what its price is. You can see some of the background notes we've got on how the wine is made, notes on the producer, notes on the region, notes on the grape varieties. There are also tabs on that page that will take you through and show you what the critics have had to say, any awards the wine's won, and its pricing history. So hopefully we've managed to assemble all the information you'd possibly need to make an informed buying decision about this wine. So thank you once again for watching, and I do hope you'll manage to make some time and come and join us for another video in the very near future. Thanks again. Bye for now.